industry is declining. The cancellation percentage is increasing massively.
There's a bunch of people who are too fearful to say that deposit is for that appointment that you missed, not forwarded on to the next appointment. That's a fear-based reaction also.
And I think in beauty, it's those extra, the self-care type services that are not necessary.
Salons that are winning, doing really well in 2024 and now stepping into 2025. What is it that they're doing differently? Are we really going downhill as an industry? And I've talked to many salon owners who felt that this is an impossible industry to win because at the moment clients cancel, they don't want to rebook, and they certainly aren't buying the product recommendations that we have. Yet many salon owners are winning. So what are they doing differently? This episode, I'm talking to Shortcut Salon Software, who recently released a very exciting industry report which compares data from 2023 to 2024 right from the horse's mouth, and some of the results shocked me. So, founder of Shortcuts, Jo, is back on the podcast. She's going to be shedding some light into what the frick is happening in 2024 and some tips on how you can win in 2025. That feels really appropriate right now. But really quick before we start, I wanted to let you know that this episode is brought to you by the Salon Mastery Program. The Salon Mastery Program helps salon owners break through the growth ceiling. Do you know that thing, like 2 steps forward, 2 steps back? I remember being there. And it's going to help you learn the strategies to elevate your salon and step into being a true salon CEO. Build that $1 million business that you've always wanted. Become a successful and profitable business owner without the stress, without the overwhelm. No more working 60 hours a week. Okay, let's get into the episode. Here is Jo. Welcome to the Salon Owners Collective Podcast. Super pleased to have Jo Burgess back on the podcast. For those of you that don't know who Jo is the co-founder of the Shortcuts Salon Software, global phenomenon, salon software of the world. Really nice to have you back, Jo, but recently you have just published an amazing industry report about what's happening in the industry, how things have changed over the last 12 months. And I read it over the weekend and I thought, oh my God, this is amazing. I learned a lot. So I thought I really need to have you back on the podcast because I really want to speak to a couple of key things in there. So first of all, thanks for doing it. And second of all, how did you pull it together? Where did all this information come from? Tell us about your industry report.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, thanks for having us back. And yes, hot off the press, this industry report. And I'm super excited because it's been something we've been wanting to do for a long time. Being in the industry for a long time, we have a lot of data that we've collected through the Shortcuts platform. And so we wanted to, one of our missions is to provide solutions, but also insights to the industry to help them grow. And so we've been thinking about how can we use all this valuable data that we've got, that we've been looking at, and it's been helping us in our business, but how can we share that with the rest of the industry to help them? So we figured a way to do that. So basically this first report, it's our first. We plan to publish annually and, potentially even more than that if it's valuable and people are finding it helpful. So this particular report comes from a cohort of 711, I think is the exact number of salons that are using our platform. So we use the data that they process through the point of sale. We're looking at bookings. We're looking at all the things they're doing in their business, and it's anonymized, of course, and it's aggregated so that we can put businesses into cohorts. We know the industry, we know the size of the salons, and we can start to have a look at some key statistics and some trends that are happening. And the reason that we want to do that and share that with the industry is to help everybody else either understand where they sit in the landscape and what are those that are doing really well doing differently to those that are not doing so well. So that's where it comes from. So I'm super excited. It is absolutely real data from real Australian, New Zealand salons. So it's super cool.
So I want to make sure that at the end of this podcast, we remember to give everybody, how to get their hands on it because it's super interesting reading. And to your point, Joe, like to understand where you are and what you can do differently is super useful.
Yep,
So
cool. Yes, we will
why
give a
don't you?
link and everyone can
Yeah,
download it. Yep.
that'll be good. Why don't you just start with like, what do you think are the main things that you've seen change over the last 12 months? Like, what is different this year to last year?
Yeah, cool. Well, we first of all, that was the first place we started. We wanted to look at like for like periods in 2023 and 2024. And we were just looking at those key performance indicators. So revenue, spend per visit, number of times they're visiting, et cetera, et cetera. And what we saw is, and we've got, when you look at the report, you'll be able to see if your hair, we've got little orange flags all the way through the report looking at hair. And if you're beauty, then you've got a teal color and you can flick through the report and look at that. But across the industry in hair, the revenue for like periods of I think it was 7 or 8 months because we haven't finished 2024. So we had to get this. I wanted to look at the same periods rather than a whole year and average on month. So the monthly revenue is absolutely flat. Like it's within a couple of $100 of each other month on month, which to me means that the industry is declining because the revenue is like our cost of living has gone up, CPI has gone up. So if the revenue is flatlining, it's not a good indication. And in fact, in beauty, it has gone down. So it's gone down. So the average in 23 monthly revenue from beauty salons in this cohort was 53,000, and that has gone down to 48,000. So that is concerning, particularly for the beauty industry. Average spend has gone up a little bit in hair and remained the same in beauty. But the main thing that's changed that is affecting negative growth or flat growth is the number of monthly visits. So the number of monthly visits in both hair and beauty has gone down. So if the average was 350 people visiting a salon in every single month in 2023, it's 341 in 2024. So if you add that up over the year, that equals less revenue. So they're paying slightly more, but they're coming less often, which equals a flatline sort of situation.
Yeah. Okay. That's super interesting. Will you speak a little bit to behavior of clients and how that's changed? I know one of those things that was really obvious is people canceling and how that is affecting businesses.
Yes, I know. We talked about it briefly before. It drives us crazy. People canceling or not showing up is the worst. So what I'll say is the rebooking rate has declined as well. So in hair it is at 55%, and in beauty it's down to 45% of clients are rebooking. So that is declining. But the cancellation percentage is increasing massively. So in 2023, it was 12% of bookings were cancelled. So from the time they were made before they came cancelled. And when we are looking at the data, it's not like they've rescheduled to a different day or a different time. They've cancelled and at the time of cancelling didn't make another appointment, right? And in 2024, that has risen to 21% in hair salons. So it was 12 and now it's 21%, which is huge. So that means 1 in 5 appointments is getting cancelled and not rebooked at that time. So that also leads to why the frequency is, extending as well. And in beauty, it went from 10% in 2023 to 15% in 2024.
Wow, that's like a significant. And here that's nearly doubled, and a
Yes.
50% increase in beauty. What are
Yes.
your thoughts or takes, Joe, on why that is happening? Why are consumers doing things differently?
I think they are since COVID, this is just my opinions. I think there is people are canceling everything at the last minute. Like you'll notice it in your own life. People are like, "Oh, I just don't feel like going," or we're sick and we're not going for dinner, and blah blah blah. And it seemed to be that this is really just my opinion, but during COVID, people will call up and say, "I'm not feeling well. I'm not coming in." And they'd say, "Fine, don't come in," because COVID was such a massive thing. And the flow on effect of that is that behavior is still happening in people, in humans. They're like, "It's okay for me to say I've got a scratchy throat and I'm not coming," whether you do or
It's more
don't.
acceptable.
It's more acceptable, and we are enabling that behavior by allowing our clients to cancel at the last minute and not having any penalty for it, and they haven't paid an upfront deposit, so that time is gone. But what we know is that when someone cancels, and particularly if it's at the last minute and you can't fill that spot, that empty spot is gone, and you cannot get revenue for time that at white space that has gone in the past. So I think it's a behaviour that we've been enabling in our industry. And I think we need to do something about that to let people know that, when you cancel, it actually affects the business. And, if we want to keep our prices reasonable, everyone still should be increasing their prices. And they are, and the average spend's going up. But the fact that people are cancelling and no showing is eroding any of that good work that people are doing in their business, in my opinion.
Yeah, agree. I do think on the flip side or the counter side of that, it is more acceptable or more commonly known for cancellation fees or deposits. Like that used to be really taboo or really hard. Only hard-nosed businesses would do that, and they certainly wouldn't follow through. But would you say that it's a little bit from the consumer, it's a little bit more acceptable or expected that businesses can do that and that we should be?
It is 1,000%, and I'm gonna flip to the page to tell you how many are actually doing that out of this cohort, because it's not as many as you think. Yeah. So if I look at, okay, so upfront deposits. So the adoption rate from this cohort of 711 salons that are taking upfront deposits is 30%, right?
Oh, wow.
So if that was still small, still small, same, and it's the same in beauty as well. But the cancellation rate and the no-show rate of those that are taking online deposits or upfront deposits is way lower. We said the average is 21%. Those that are across everybody, those that are not taking deposits at all, it's 22%. Those that are taking deposits is 17%, right? 17% is still not great, but it's certainly much better than 22%, right?
Hey, it's me again. I just wanted to interrupt and jump in here quickly to say thanks for listening to the podcast. I really appreciate you being here. Just one question though. If you are listening to this episode and thinking, oh my God, this is me, but I'm just not sure what to do, well, don't worry. I've got some strategies for you. The Salon Mastery Program will help you develop and implement 100K team, 100K mindset, strategies and steps designed to help you lead your team to enjoy 100K careers and install the 100K mindset and motivation so you can help build that inside of your team. The systems, the processes to master the 100K day so you can build the $1 Million Salon. So I want to invite you to join me for a complimentary $1 Million strategy call. We'll discuss your business, your role in the business. Let's see if I'm the right person to help you grow your business and your team. Together, we can reach the $1 Million mark. All you need to do is click the Apply Now button in the show notes of this very episode. You're welcome to book a time, a strategy call. We'll have a chat. All right, that's enough for me. Let's get back to the episode.
So you can see that that's starting to change in behaviour. And the no-show rate is 1 or 2% lower from people that are from businesses in hair and beauty that are taking deposits versus those that aren't. So I think we are all understand that it is more acceptable, but I also think we do a lot of discovery and talk to a lot of salon owners about why they don't take up deposits. And there is that fear of upsetting customers. And because they've never done it, introducing something new is a hard thing for salon owners and stylists to beauty therapists to be able to introduce into their business. So I think we need to put our big girl pants on and make that change, because what we realize is that our clients actually don't care about it as much, and it does change their behavior.
Yeah, I wonder too how many people are actually using the deposit in lieu of the white space rather than just putting that deposit to forward onto their next appointment. Like I reckon there's a bunch of people who are too fearful to say that deposit is for that appointment that you missed, not forwarded onto the next appointment. That's a
Yes, that's
fear-based
right.
reaction also.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure we'll talk a little bit later, but those that are enforcing it and have clear policies and communicate to their clients what they're doing and why they're doing and stick to their rules are doing much better than the average cohort and growing versus staying flatline.
Okay, so that's really interesting. I think as I've got older, I've learnt that people actually, when you hold good boundaries in whatever relationship, professional, personal, then actually people respect them better and respect you better and treat you better. Took a few years to learn that.
I agree with you 1,000%. Yeah, it's hard, but you've got to, you've got to step and, I see a lot of salons that they start with new clients. So they just ask for deposits from new clients that they don't know because it's an easy to introduce and say, that's how we work here. If you want to come see us, we take deposits, right? Or they do it just for color services, or they do it just for online bookings. But in my mind, it needs to be across the board and it needs to be consistent. It's the same way that you would treat a client when they came into the salon. Everybody gets offered a refreshment. Everybody gets talked to about product and recommendations, and everybody asks to be rebooked. So why doesn't everybody get asked for an upfront deposit? Why do we pick and choose who we ask based on fear of how we're going to upset somebody, when the reality is those that are embracing it and doing it are finding that that is actually not a problem. People do not stop coming to you if you ask for a deposit. It doesn't even have to be a big one. Like, even just a $10 or $20 deposit, it doesn't have to be huge.
That's right. And it's not
Mm,
about how much they like you or dislike you. It's just a part of business.
that's right. But I think you've got to communicate it. And if you're scared about it and you don't really say much and you go, "Oh, you don't need to worry about it," or, yeah, don't worry, I'll just move that, cancellation fee onto next time or whatever, then you're actually, I find it fascinating that salon owners would sacrifice money in their own pocket for just even the risk of upsetting somebody. Not even like, if you've upset somebody, well, then you make it better. But in case we upset somebody, I'll lose out on money. Like, I just don't understand. I find that interesting. But that's something
I
we need
always
to
think,
challenge ourselves on.
yeah, I think the mistake is that we believe that money and feelings go together. They don't. They should be very separate. Money is very non-emotional. Be non-emotional about it. Feelings different. Love people, but don't cross the wires.
Yeah, that's a really good way of describing it. Yeah.
Money mindset. We could have a
Yeah.
whole session on that, Joe.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah,
I'm
definitely.
really interested in your report because there was I think it starts to emerge, like, what are the things that those salons that are winning, doing really well in 2024 and now stepping into 2025, what is it that they're doing differently or better than those that actually are pulling the average down or are not doing so well? What was
Yeah,
your
cool.
observation?
Yeah, well, there's quite a few pages in the report, and I just encourage anyone listening to download it and have a look at each of the pages. But what we did is we put the customers in this data set into different groups. So Group A is not using any online booking features whatsoever. So they're doing everything manually. They're not taking any deposits, none of that online stuff. Then we looked at the salons that are just taking online booking but not taking deposits. So yes, they've got online booking. They get a portion of their bookings come through there, but they're not taking deposits. Then we added those that are taking deposits, and then we added those that are on reserve with Google. And reserve with Google is incredibly powerful. So if you've got a booking system that is online and you can be found via Google, and the same booking experience can happen triggered from Google, um, we put those people into a group. So it was very interesting, and I will say, disclaimer, like, it's not 100% the reason why those salons are doing more, but there's a stacked effect. If you add on these features, it is super clear that those that are using all those things, so the cohort D that are using online booking, taking deposits, and are on reserve with Google, are doing about double the average of what the rest are doing in revenue per month. So it's super clear that that it has an impact by being able to connect with customers in a way that suits them in hours that suits them, and make sure that you're reducing the risk of those no shows and cancellations from happening.
It's amazing. Like, it's kind of double for hair, but it's actually more than double for beauty.
More than that. Mm.
Um, Yeah, which is really interesting. So those are not hard things to implement. Like I feel like, you don't have to retrain all your staff to do, 27 different steps. Like these are kind of turn a couple of buttons and these features are on, Joe.
Totally self-serve, that's right. It is all about putting the, experience back in the client's hands. The client's making the booking, the client's building their own profile, the client's putting card on file, the client's paying the deposit. All you need to do is receive the bookings. So, yeah, that's exactly right. It's not hard.
Yeah. Okay, so we want to make sure what's the takeaway from the session today is go and do the things. Put your online booking on, don't be scared of it. And if you are, learn how to overcome that because it's actually doing something to grow your business. Taking deposits, putting on the Google reviews. There's no reason why we can't be doing this.
Totally.
So, something else I observed is the difference between hair and beauty, particularly in that graph. But I think as you go through the report, it's quite obvious that there are some things that the hair businesses are doing really, really well, and some things that beauty are doing really, really well, and they're different things. Can we speak to that a little bit? Because I thought that was pretty fascinating.
It is fascinating, isn't it? I think that the one thing that we notice about, beauty versus hair, one thing that I noticed in this cohort is those that are coming really regularly, like less than 6 weekly, are coming really regularly, like 3.5 weeks in beauty. Like that is really regular of those regular ones. But those that are not coming regularly, so more than 6 weekly, they've gone from coming every 11 weeks in beauty to coming every 16 weeks in beauty. So I think that with the pressures of the cost of living, that those nice to have treatments, like you gotta have your hair cut, right? That's a necessity. It's the colors that are nice to have that people are stretching out, and I think in beauty, it's those extra, um, you know, the self-care type services that are not necessary. They're a luxury, that's the word. I was trying to think of the word. I think that's still necessary because like, it's super important to take care of yourself, but when cuts are being made from discretional spending, they're the types of things. So I feel like it's the waxing and the nails and the smaller ticket items that are done more regularly. Like I get my nails done every 2 or 3 weeks, right? Maintenance, your eyebrows, your waxing, like you're getting that sort of stuff done. You're getting it done more often, but it is low ticket. So I think it's keeping that average spend across all visits low, like it's flatlining, even though it's increased in hair, it's flatlining in beauty. I think it's the mix of more people having small services and less people having big services, and the big services are getting stretched out. That's sort of my take on what might be happening there and the differences between that.
And then I suspect also that there's a small demographic who are coming more regularly because they're in high maintenance or skin programs or, they have lots of grey hair that need to be covered, so they're coming more often, but that would be a small portion of the demographic. Um, was does that feel true rather than the majority are stretching things out and just doing maintenance things?
Yes, it's about 50-50. I think. It's about 50-50 that are doing those things and then 50-50 that are stretching it out. And, the other thing that beauty do really well that need to teach the hair crew is retail. The average percentage of retail in beauty salons is 22%, right? It's pretty good. And in hair, it's 8%,
Come
which
on
is
here, people, you're letting us
come on here,
down.
people.
What are you
You come on here, people, right? Yeah, it's crazy. Now, I know that's average, and I know that a lot of salons are doing better than that, but because it's the average, then there's a lot that are doing worse as well. So it's super interesting. Yeah.
Okay, it's fascinating. I think we've got some work to do. On the clients. I feel like there's a growing gap, Joe, of those that are thriving, growing really well, and there's a small portion that are really just taking off. This is what we're seeing inside of Seller Mastery Program. Like those that are winning are winning. They are doing great.
Yes.
They're on a growth trajectory. They're really profitable. The teams are thriving, and then there's the portion that are maybe or already struggling a little bit and are struggling more and more. Um, is that what you're experiencing?
Yes, I
Like the
think
the
so.
divide is growing
Yeah,
between
and
the
I
haves and have-not.
totally, and I feel like the difference is mindset. It's like I think a lot of people when things get tough go into how do we cut costs? How do we minimize versus a growth mindset? How do we maximize the opportunities of everybody coming in? And how do we get more customers to find us online? And how do we use our social media to get more customers, or Google to get more customers, versus those that are struggling? And it's stressful when you're struggling. They go into that, survival mode and cut down mode versus a growth mindset. And then there's some really small things that you can do, like turning on online booking, like starting to take deposits, that will have a big impact on your business. That doesn't require you to, dig deep or change too much about what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. That's the benefit of technology, right? And AI and all these things, they just help us work faster and more efficient.
Yeah. And I think if you are struggling or on the verge of struggling, it's easy to look outward and say, well, of course I'm struggling. The world has changed and consumer behavior has changed. But I want to offer a thought that some people are winning. So what are they doing? Like, why can some people win and some people don't? And so what's the common denominator there? It's probably the person running the business. Because if people can win in a downward economy, that means you can win in a downward economy because some people are doing it. There is evidence that some people are growing. So why not you?
Absolutely. There's opportunities everywhere.
Absolutely. All right. Well, normally, as we do in tradition here on the podcast, I say, Jo, what are you reading? What can you recommend at the moment?
And I'm
Anything that you've
reading
read
the
lately?
industry report. I'm reading the 2024 industry report for hair and beauty, and you guys all should be reading it too. Definitely, we'll put a link and download it hot off the press, so you'll be the first to see it. And I'd love any feedback and other sorts of things that would help you in your business, other data that you're looking for. Like, please let us know, because we want to help.
Well, thank you for being out there and leading the industry, especially through this rough time, and giving us the tools to do that. I really appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Thanks for coming. Ciao for now.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. I hope you loved that episode. I want to know how you're feeling after hearing those stats. I really just wanted to reinforce what Jo and I were talking about at the end of that episode, and that is that revenue has flatlined and cancellations have increased, and all the things can sound a little bit discouraging, but it doesn't have to mean that you can't win. There are salon owners winning. Some of the salon owners inside of the Salon Mastery program, they're winning, they're growing, they're smashing goals, they're reaching the $1 million mark. So my suggestion is start small, but make sure they're powerful systems that you can upgrade, even if you only do 1% edits at a time. It's a good way forward. All right, here's to fast tracking growth in 2025. Look forward to connecting with you. Same time, same place next week on the podcast. Ciao for now.